Good.
Come on in, Liam.
Good morning, everybody. We're live. This is a meeting of the House Criminal Law Subcommittee. We have a few bills we are hoping to vote on, and some we are hoping to discuss. I would like to start with the HIV bill. I can't remember which number that one is. Give me 1 second.
287.
Yes, when you're ready
287.
for a motion, I move favorable on that one, Mr. Chair. To me, it's a no-brainer.
I will second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. This is House
Was there an
Bill
amendment though to change it to make it, or was there no amendment?
So Delegate Brammer had an amendment. I don't know if he wants to discuss or press it, but just by way of background, the bill as introduced would repeal a crime of knowingly transferring or attempting to transfer HIV. And at the hearing, we had heard that this was the only disease that's specifically named for this transmission, and that this may be already covered by other aspects of criminal law. So that was the prior discussion, but Delegate Brammer, did you want to discuss your amendment?
Yeah, I'll talk about it very briefly. So it was mentioned in the hearing that we had a couple options. We could either strike this, just strike the section of code altogether, or alternatively change the section of code to apply to all communicable diseases. I talked to the bill sponsor. He preferred we just strike it. With that said, remembering back, I remember AIDS as it was treated in the 80s, and it was, looked upon very disfavorably. And this is the only communicable disease that is currently in code. Since then, hepatitis has become a big thing. COVID has become a big thing. So the question is here, do we create a legal remedy for people who have been, a person has transmitted a communicable disease to them knowingly, or do we just strike the AIDS portion of the code and move on with their lives? And my amendment kept the section, but broadened it so that, it was one way of dealing with the bill sponsor's concern while not being specific as to AIDS. So that's an option. I'm not, again, the bill sponsor preferred we just leave his bill like it is. I'm not super wed to it, but I felt it was a good thing to bring up for discussion in case anybody is married to the section of code.
All right, Delegate Eric Han.
Okay, so on the amendment, the cold virus is a
Well, we're on the bill since.
Oh, I
this
thought we were on the amendment. Yeah,
hasn't been
I think,
introduced, but I
yeah,
guess we're discussing the bill now.
yeah,
with
so
this lurking.
yeah, I think that, every communicable disease is almost every virus on the planet. Kids swap them all day long. We have basically permanent kennel cough down here all session long. Are we going to be charging each other with misdemeanors and $2,500 in imprisonment because somebody came to work and spread COVID or some other virus? I don't even know what's going around down here. So I think I'm a hard no on the amendment, but I'm also a hard no on removing this from code. And if we wanted to add other STDs to it, I would certainly entertain that as an idea.
Yes, a communicable disease, there's a typical list of them: gonorrhea, HIV, hepatitis, the broad category does cover that. But if there's any reluctance about the amendment, like I said, I'm not married to it. It was just an option for.
It was just for sexually transmitted diseases, then I would be all for adding all of them. I mean, you shouldn't be knowingly transferring herpes to somebody. You shouldn't be knowingly transferring, any of these things. If you know you have something, you obviously should not be engaging in sexual activity that is likely to spread it. I mean, the chances of spreading something like herpes in let's say a year-long relationship is like 80 or 90%. The person will get it from you. And that's including in safe practice. So I think people should be telling people these things, and I think somebody should have a legal recourse if they've been knowingly sickened. I mean, these are most of them at least are permanent illnesses. So yeah, I will absolutely not be voting for this bill, and I don't think it's a good look, even for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. This will likely come back around to bite some people in 4 years.
Yeah, so I'll just, let's,
Hold on, let's give Delegate Cardin a chance.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, I have no problem with the amendment. I think that there's still an intent that you have to show that you are intentionally, is it malicious intent or just intent?
Knowingly.
You are knowingly intending to communicate this disease or this virus to somebody else. So, like, if you're having sex with them, but you don't believe that you were going to be able to transfer it to them, then they lose the case. I mean, I have no problem with the amendment. I also have no problem with it as it's drafted. I think it would be cleaner to have the amendment, but I'm good. I'm good either way, Mr. Chair. And I would look to you to say, what's the advantage of having this amendment?
All right, Delegate Embry.
I just want to, I mean, one of the purposes, but I think the core purpose of the bill is to, so right now people are not getting tested because of the bill. And so if we adopt the amendment, that really that sort of negates the whole purpose of the bill. So I would not support the amendment for that reason and for the reasons that Delegate Erickson said. I just think it's so wildly broad to include every communicable disease. But I just want to say I was initially skeptical about this bill, but I've been persuaded that of course you should tell someone if you have a disease before you have sex with them. Of course you should. And it's bad not to, and maybe you could sue them. I just think it shouldn't be criminalized given the strong impact on public health. And there are just very few cases charged. I think it was under 20 in a year. And there are other, I think, options for getting at that behavior. And even, MCASA, Lisa Jordan, it took her a while to get there, but she recognized, I think, that in the trade-off that it is, from a policy perspective, worth eliminating it as a criminal penalty. So anyway, thank you.
All right, Delegate Kaufman, and then we can hopefully move on. You need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, I will be voting against the amendment out of deference to Delegate Fair, who wanted to keep it clean. And unlike my good friend from Hartford County, I will be enthusiastically supporting the bill because of it lifts stigma. Thank you.
Great. And here's what I would say before we we're on the bill. It had a motion and a second. I mean, just even the very brief discussion we had on the theoretical amendment, it sounds to me, wherever you stand on it, we probably need a hearing with a public opportunity for testimony.
Could be a separate bill.
Yeah, if we're going to try and create a new crime like that, I don't think we do that on the fly in subcommittee. Well, that's just my 2 cents. Okay, so all those in favor of House Bill 287.
Don't we need a roll call, Mr. Chair?
I don't think so. We'll just do this by hands.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm in favor. Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, so that's 2.
I can't see very well, Mr. Chair. Can you tell me the 2 that were opposed, please?
It was Erican and Grammer.
Okay, thank you.
And for new members, for Boucher and Kaufman and Embry, I do not believe that subcommittee votes are recorded. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Correct.
But they are live streamed, so they are technically.
But they are live streamed, so we can.
They didn't used to be, yeah.
But it's not in
All right, let's go to House Bill 332 next. This is body cam procurement policy do we have, Chris, do we have, I think it was someone from DGS, maybe Delegate Lewis, and someone from law enforcement.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
So there is an amendment to this one that the sponsor is requesting.
Do you know if Christine Delarickard is with DJS?
No idea. I suppose I don't actually know the names of exactly who was going to be sent. We could just pull folks in at this point. All right. And is Delegate Lewis here?
Not in the waiting room.
Okay. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to text him?
Yes, please. Sorry, one of you folks who are here in the work session representing DGS? All right.
I'm not.
All right, let's pause this bill then. Chris, while let's flip over to Delegate Love's bill, the person in a position of authority. Since I see some of the folks for that bill are here, and then see if we can get Delegate Lewis and DGS on while we talk about the other one. And I think that bill number was.
I texted him, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great.
It's House Bill 226.
Yep, 226. And for this one, we have a amendment prepared by our counsel, Claire Rossmark, that is seeking to keep the intent of the bill, but to streamline its particular language. If you guys will recall, this was the bill that would expand the category of individuals who could be prosecuted for engaging in sex acts with a minor, and it would include volunteers and other folks at camps and scouting and music and athletic tutoring and after-school activities.
Favorable.
Well, let's quickly
All right.
take the amendment first.
Okay.
You want me to kind of explain what I tried to do?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Are we going to be able to see the amendment up on the screen? Can we do that?
There's a reprint in the email that
Okay.
Kristen sent at 10:34. There's a
Thanks.
reprint of it. So, and this was just my attempt. I'm concerned about the language of the bill as introduced. And by the way, this bill has been around for years and predates the current sponsor. So I'm not saying this is her fault, but it's just, this language was developed a long time ago and it's just perpetuated year after year. And I am concerned about it because it's very broad and imprecise in places. And just as background for some of the new people, when we're writing a criminal prohibition, you've got to be sufficiently precise because just to put members of the public on notice that this is exactly, we are prohibiting this specific conduct. If you do it, you will be committing a crime. And so you need to
adequately put people on notice of what conduct is prohibited. And if the language of a criminal statute is too vague, a court could strike it down as unconstitutional. Also, if a statute is criminal prohibition is too complicated, prosecutors may have trouble getting convictions under it. And we've heard from prosecutors over the years that certain statutes, including our gang statute, just so complicated and unwieldy that they have trouble getting convictions under it. So I just wanted to prevent those problems from, happening with this statute. And so that's why I made these amendments. And by the way, just ignore the purpose paragraph. I did not change the purpose paragraph, which I would do before it's finalized. So in 3308A, I just changed that to, and I was trying to keep the sponsor's intent with these amendments, is employed by a person in a position of authority, means a person who is at least 21 years old, is employed by, works under contract or as a volunteer for, and we keep the current law, school employee. And then we add in a child care program, a for-profit or nonprofit instructional program for music, dance, art, tutoring, academic enrichment, or martial arts. Now, I struck out the bill is introduced as, or a program with a similar purpose. I was just worried about that. I just thought that might be too vague and unconstitutional. That's just the reason why I struck it out. But if people want it back in, that's fine. A sports, scouting, or recreational program. I just thought activity is a little bit too broad and vague. And by the way, I am still kind of concerned about the use of the word program, because what exactly does that mean? Does that mean it's got to be a corporation? Could it be a sole proprietorship? I still find that a little bit vague, but I left it in. A day or no overnight camp or a religious institution. Now, I did strike this reference to local, state, or federal government because I just thought it was unclear what that was trying to get at. Is that trying to get at some 16 or 17-year-old interns who might work for the government? It just wasn't clear to me, and it wasn't really fleshed out in the bill as introduced. And I thought, maybe we should just limit it to these other type of extracurricular programs, just so that the bill isn't super, super broad. But again, if you all want to, that could be added back in. So yeah, that's the first part of the definition of a person in position of authority. And then because the person's position or occupation exercises supervision over a minor who attends the school, camp, or institution or participates in the program. And then here down in paragraph 2, I just restored current law. Person in a position of authority includes a principal, vice principal, teacher, coach, or school counselor at a public or private preschool, just so as not to disturb that provision of current law. And then what with the changes I made above, this language, this new language is not necessary. So that's why that's been struck. And then going on to page 3 of 4, in subsection C, 1 and 2, these are just basically technical changes because the changes that were made, I believe, were not proper. The bill is introduced where it was adding in vaginal intercourse under subsection C1. That's not necessary because that's already there down in paragraph 2. So it's just basically prohibiting a person in position of authority from engaging in these types of this type of sexual conduct, the two different types in paragraph 1 and 2, with a student who is attending a school, camp, or institution or participating in a program. And then item small Roman numeral 2 in both paragraph 1 and 2 talks about a student who previously attended a school or program when the person in position of authority worked there, which you can keep that or take that out if you want. And that's basically it.
Okay, so let me just, before we get to Delegate Erican, the sponsor has seen these amendments and I believe has shared them with folks and is more or less on board with them. They had one comment that I think I sent to you, Claire, that came from the state's attorneys about in A13 to make a reference back to subsection 2. Let me, and I think, and is this, I think the OHG had an anti-merger, had an anti-merger favorable with amendment on this. But okay, so so we have Claire's amendment, Delegate Erican and then Cardin.
Thanks. So I'm not totally sure if I speak for everybody, but I feel like that's a lot of changes for us to try to move this bill today. Just having gotten it like less than an hour ago. So I'm not real comfortable voting on it yet until I get a real chance to look at, the impact of these changes and make sure that I'm comfortable with them. So that's just my 2 cents on. I wonder if Joyce King might be able to, if she has a copy, this interlineated copy, if she could tell me what her thoughts are.
Yes, is there someone, Joyce King,
Yeah.
or someone from MSAA, I guess, who's had a chance to look at this?
Yes, Debbie and I actually reviewed this with Delegate Love. I know to echo Delegate Erican's sentiments, there were a lot of changes, so it took us some time to process that what if anything was substantively changed. I think it does clarify. We are comfortable. I think Delegate Love is comfortable. There were some additional tweaks, I think, that Delegate Moon alluded to, and I think Council alluded to. I think in the list of where we list what we're calling programs, if we could just define that list as programs, because I think Council did refer to that could be a vague or term. So I didn't know if there was a way, and I'll defer to Council for capturing that items 1 through 6 are what we are calling programs. Additionally, with regards to the striking of after school programs, we were hoping to include that again. We just want to make sure that things like chess club, Lego club, I mean, there are different clubs that don't fall into music, dance, tutoring, academic enrichment. So I think that would be a good safeguard with that. But otherwise, upon our review, we don't believe that it truly, I think it does still capture the intent of what we wanted out of the bill.
That's good to know. So maybe we should at least get those in writing, those changes in writing, so we can look at them, hopefully an interlineated copy, so we really know what's happening. Because I would be horrified if a kid was molested at some event that happened at a school, and then because we didn't include that specific thing, a judge throws it out. That's my greatest fear. So maybe we could see the interlineated of all of these edits before we actually move it. I think that would probably be the best thing.
Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. And just a reminder, I'll keep this on, but I'm going to be chairing another committee in a few minutes. So, but my question really, I have no problem with if the amendment, if it works for the prosecutors, I'm good with it. My issue is that there was a letter from the Attorney General, which I don't know whether this dealt with, but I don't know if the prosecutors could comment very quickly on the decision in Frazier means that in practice that if a prosecutor charges a defendant with both 4th degree sexual offense and 2nd degree assault, it can have the paradoxical effect of capping the potential maximum penalty for only the lower 1-year sentence that is allowed for 4th degree sexual offense. Therefore, in order to preserve the appropriate sentencing discretion by the court for particularly serious sexual crimes, prosecutor must avoid the 4th degree sexual offense and only charge 2nd degree assault, which fails to acknowledge the distinctively sexual nature of the offenses. If that is in fact a problem, I think we should deal with it. If not, I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Jared, did you want to take that question?
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to address that. We suggested in that letter proposed amendment language that would deal with the Frazier problem, and so would provide that a violation of this section, this being 4th degree sexual offense, including person in position of authority, may not be considered a greater inclusive crime of any other crime, and also then including the other anti-merger language that's already in the bill as drafted. And that would address that problem and ensure
but that is not going to be, that's not in this amendment. I just want to be clear.
That is not in this amendment.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thanks.
All right, Delegate Bartlett.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure I understood one point, and that is, are we going back to look at programs, to define programs? Was that somewhere we were going? And if so, I kind of, the reason why I like the word activity is because I just don't, I just feel like, I don't know. I've been sitting here trying to think of one. And just because I can't think of it, just because I don't have that wide of imagination, I just don't want a swim trip, that they, they're in the camp. So I know that the camp part would be included, but I don't know. Let's just say after camp, they decide to go by a 7-Eleven or, a convenience store. Just because everybody needs an extra snack or something. That wouldn't, as I read the amendment, I'm not sure that that would still be included. Perhaps it would be, and perhaps the program itself or the camp itself would just kind of, be encompassed in that. But it's now an activity in my mind that's not necessarily part of the camp. It's not for any type of art or music or academic enrichment. It's just that they ran out of snacks or something. And so they make this stop. So I don't know. I just want that to be as inclusive as possible if we are going to define program, because I think that is the essence of the bill, that she's trying to, include all those extras that aren't necessarily included in law now. But thanks for the work on this, Claire. I appreciate it. It's a lot.
Thank you. So between the last set of 3 comments, it's sort of an interesting question here, because my first thought too is activity set seems less term of arty to me and more likely to capture things. But the Joyce King amendment, I think, would also then clip it back to just the previously listed set of items. I think if we, whether we call it a program or activity, if we say program or activity means this list of things, we will have then put a limiter on it. But it also is sounding like Claire is suggesting we should do that. because for purposes of not having vagueness be an issue with the law, we ought to have a more concrete set of things if possible. Does that sound like I'm capturing it?
I could try to add activity into the definition of programs.
That's what I was going to suggest as well. I think that would be a great resolution.
Okay, so can we just, it sounds like we're heading conceptually to doing the Claire amendment with this activity addition and an anti-merger bit from OAG. And sorry, was there one more discussion point on after school? Is that the last thing we ought to?
Restore that language.
Well, what do folks want to do here? Yeah, okay.
I kind of would like to have a reprint. I hate to even
Yeah.
suggest.
No. At this point, we're not going to vote this today, since we're doing multiple edits at once. But is that enough to go on? I guess. I think that sounds pretty good to me. Can we move on to body cams?
Do we want to keep the prior time period language?
It's a little weird. What do folks think about that?
Well, I can keep it in for now, and then if you later want to take it out, that would be easy to do.
Yeah, okay. Why don't we do that? We'll just leave it in, and then that last bit we can save for a full committee discussion. Okay, great. Let's move on to body cams. Chris, do we have the correct people here for that?
I apologize. I've not been able to get a hold of DGS.
Okay. Let's also hold this one, but we'll I'll just briefly say there was an amendment that the sponsor had. Chris, were we able to send that one around?
Yes, I did disseminate that, but I can share my screen as well if that's helpful.
Sure. Why don't we just quickly talk about it?
Just so you know, Mr. Chair, I don't know if he's on. I made multiple attempts to contact Delegate Lewis and he didn't respond to my text and his voicemail is full.
Okay. I'll let him know about the voicemail bit when I see him. All right.
Yeah. Let's see what happens when you're no longer the caucus chair. You don't take voicemails anymore.
All right, can you scroll down? And what's the effect? I think the effect here was that basically it would be DGS that does that handles the procurement instead of MSP, maybe. Yeah, DGS on behalf of law enforcement agencies. Well, so I think this is a fairly nerdy bill, and it's really just trying to take the process right now where every law enforcement agency is independently doing body cam procurement and trying to see if it's possible to achieve savings by having larger entities doing some of the contracting. And I think there's also an aspiration in the bill that a study be undertaken to look at whether the state should take a larger role in body cam data and storage and PIA requests overall. Well, are there any folks who are here for the body cam bill that have any comments on this type of amendment before we adjourn for the day?
Delegate Moon, if I may, it's Russ Hamill
Yes,
from the
yes,
Maryland
go ahead.
Chiefs and Sheriffs. We just would like to thank the sponsor in this committee, and in particular you, Delegate, for your assistance with this. This language mirrors in great detail the language we offered, and we think it will help, especially smaller agencies be able to achieve body camera transparency goals that we're looking for. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and this is Sarah from MACO, and all that I would add is that when we had submitted our amendment to Delegate Lewis, what we were trying to clarify is that the original language sounded to us in the reading like almost as though the Department of General Services was required to do a custom job per county, and that's not what we were intending at all. We wanted to just make sure that counties could ride on the contracts that are established at the state level. So we wanted to basically streamline it and make it easier for DGS, essentially.
And sorry, is that concern is that handled in what Delegate Lewis has presented, or does it need further tweaking to get us there?
I think that might be a question for DGS. I mean, as far as I can see, it says on behalf of.
I can't hear you, ma'am.
She's frozen.
Hello?
Okay, there you are.
You can hear me?
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, I think the concern from the Department of General Services was that somebody needs to trigger the purchasing of the materials. And I think we had assumed that the state would also be purchasing cameras for their enforcement, and we would just ride on those cameras. I think for the most part, I think that it's the amendments have clarified what we were looking to do. We just wanted to make sure that they didn't feel overburdened by, having to do this custom job.
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny. I would be real tempted to say, maybe we can vote on this, but it seems strange to impose this on the agency without them here to just quickly give a thumbs up on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So we're going to hold it and see if we can try this again next Thursday with our friends from DGS here, or at least get some verification before we vote. So we're going to quickly just talk about, let's try and wrap in the next, it's 11:41. So we'll try and wrap by 11:45, but let's just talk about the bills that are left on the docket. We have facial recognition and live streaming of child pornography on the docket. So facial recognition, I think I saw we have Scott, Schellenberger's here. That, to be honest, I think that's a bill that is gonna move if we get the consensus from all the stakeholders. And I saw that there was a recent proposal from, I don't know if Scott, it was from you or from MSAA.
Delegate, it's from all of us on the other side. So it was the industry, law enforcement, the state's attorneys, everyone who had opposed this before. We had gotten together in a coalition and came up with a amendment, which I had sent to JPR last week, but got very little reaction. And therefore, since you were having this hearing today, I made sure that you got it. We think it does a lot of good things. I don't want to take up all your time, but it expands the crimes a little bit, to include hate crimes and child pornography, also domestic violence crimes. It does make some adjustments to the age that we can use it. And in that realm, we were thinking about human trafficking, not necessarily about defendants, but about people who are being manipulated. We tweaked the language with regard to whether it could ever be used live. And that had to be basically an imminent terrorist attack or a public safety or national security has to be a heightened level. And the other thing that was important was we can't limit it to just mugshots and driver's licenses. we still have to have access to other ability to do it. And the best way for me to drive that home is a number of the people who were caught January 6th down at the Capitol didn't have a prior record and weren't from that state, that jurisdiction. And therefore it was really the social media scans that was able to identify a lot of those individuals. So the other thing is we do put a lot of restrictions in here. You know, we would like to use it for every crime, but we recognize that it should be saved for the worst of the worst and the ones that are most necessary. So we think this is a very good compromise that balances the needs of law enforcement with the concerns of privacy that the original bill held. And I can tell you that everybody on the other side for the last 3 or 4 years are on the same page on this one.
Great. Well, I took a look at your amendments and I told the senator what I thought about them. You know, I'm letting it, this was his brainchild, so I'm letting him take the priority on negotiations. You guys took out proficiency testing and the ability of a local government to go above and beyond the state rules. Those would be 2 things I would want to see something put back in. But on most of the rest, I'm quite open-minded. But we're not going to deal with this today, so we'll hopefully have another week to take a look at. Delegate Eric, did you want to make a quick comment before
I'm happy to answer any direct questions. There is no proficiency testing yet. That's why it doesn't exist. So that's why we took it out. But we can always have a goal. And my pitch to Sidnor was, if we pass it the way we drafted it, he will see me a lot less. And I thought that was a good incentive.
Delegate Eric.
Yeah, so I'm glad you guys were able to come to some kind of agreement that is heartwarming and wonderful. I would really like to see this include private companies, frankly. I would be way more comfortable with it if we weren't just tying officers' hands, but we're also telling private companies they have to abide by the same policies that law enforcement has to abide by. So that's just my 2 cents, and I would love to see it change to that effect.
All right, duly noted. We have 1 minute on the grammar bill. This was live streaming child porn. We'll take it up next week. So I guess if folks have questions and amendments, be prepared. I'm going to take a closer look at it. Delegate Grammer, the only questions I had were, what's the federal law on this that was referenced, and what does that do versus what this bill does? And then my other question was, is it clearly drafted in a way that the intent is to view the illegal child subject matter, and that one didn't have general prurient intent, and that it happened that the YouTube video teed up illegal subject matter? And that's my only gut check on that.
Yeah, the documents I sent to the committee should clarify that. And this is the language we have used elsewhere. And if the prosecutors are here, they could probably clarify that quickly.
Yeah, quickly, knowingly, intentionally, with the intent to view. I think that's pretty solid.
But that you're not intended to view pornography, that you're intending to view child pornography, right? That's the sort of operative bit.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, very briefly, Delegate Kaufman and then Cardin, and then we're gonna split.
Okay. Hold on. I'm just wanted to just say that the reason I had my camera off is I looked for Delegate Mr. Sullenberger's amendment.
Delegate Sullenberger.
High, Scott Schellenberger's amendment, high and low. You know, there's so many papers here for this subcommittee, I couldn't find it. So could you please resend what you have on the screen? That's all I wanted to say.
Very quickly, Mr. Chair, I know we have to split. This is, I guess, I don't know if this is for one of the prosecutors on the line can help me. If I am web surfing, streaming, and I come across something and without the intent to actually see it, but I'm now watching it, or I'm not really paying attention, but it's streaming on my video. And all of a sudden I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't believe I did this. But yet it's streamed for a significant amount of time. I'm thinking that sometimes, like just before this video was going, this Zoom was going for like the last 10 minutes. I was on a subcommittee. I really wasn't paying attention. And I realized that you guys are staring at me, looking at me, talking on the phone. And that was for 10 minutes. If I was like streaming something I wasn't supposed to be, would you be able to, and would you want to prosecute that?
No, because you did not have the intent to view. And there are additional evidence that we look at a forensic examination, like we can see what someone searches, right? Like what was your search terms? And typically in conjunction with these cases, they're specifically looking for child pornography. So that'd be the corroborating evidence.
But Joyce, you like me, right? What if I'm a real jerk? You don't like me. You're like, we got this guy on this. We can get him, even though the facts might be the same as somebody like that you like, but you got a prosecutor who just wants to go after somebody.
Well, I think we still have the burden of proving intent, and the only way to prove intent is to look at those additional artifacts on your computer to see what else were you doing, what other images do you have. And every child pornography case that I have, you better believe this is a defense. You know, I didn't mean to. It was an accident. Someone sent it to me. So we look at the case in its totality. And often, if it's just one instance and there are no other, we don't proceed on that because there isn't sufficient evidence to show that you intended to possess it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're going to have a discussion on that one next week. All right. That's it for now, folks. See you all next Thursday.